Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fandom Post Radio. I am your substitute host, Cain, and with me today to talk about the winter season is Kestrel.
Hi.
And DJ.
Hello.
Awesome. Well, I know it's been quite some time since we've really had a chat about any of the shows, and I know this season has had at least a couple standouts that we have at least ranted and raved about once or twice in various offshoots of other episodes, but I think we will finally be able to get down a little bit. Kestrel, do we have any news? I know last episode was basically all news, but I don't know if there is anything that's happened between then and now or something that we missed.
I don't really have anything. I guess I will mention that a manga by Inio Asano is being adapted into an anime, not the one that I'm familiar with, but I guess it's a precedent anyway, so that's neat.
It has a funny name.
It does have a funny name.
I can't wait to not ever call it by its appropriate name.
Dead Demons Destruction.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is correct. I'm just going to call it the D anime.
Mm-hmm. All the D's. Oh, this is what that one person on the chat was talking about being all hyped about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
This is the creator of Poon Poon and Solanin, for people who don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm familiar with Poon Poon, not the other one, but I'm familiar with that at least. So that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think this means that Poon Poon is going to get adapted because it's like 10 years old and this one ended like a few weeks ago. So that's obviously the reason why it got this announcement. But I guess if it does well enough, anything's possible.
Poon Poon animating that, I feel like it's hard to do.
It's true. It's probably why they haven't.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is it just because of the art style, or just
because of the art style? A lot of the subject matter is like not a thing that you can air on television. So it'd have to be like a late night thing, and in order to make any of it like remotely it'd have to be like pretty high budget and pretty fucking out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's too many moving parts in adapting something like Poon Poon, where it would have to be handled with a lot of care, and it'd be just tough to do.
So it's going to be a full CGI show when it comes out. It's gonna look like shit because that's just how the world works. All right, so I think we can just jump right into talking about shows for this season. I actually wanted to start off posing a question of sorts to maybe mix up a little bit of how we do this. Is there any shows that you had been watching this season, either of you two, that have either precipitously climbed or fell in your opinions of them? I kind of want to know if there's any shows like that and why that would be, and then we can kind of branch off from there. Especially since this is kind of a light season for you two, at least. I mean, I'm always just watching like 3 shows, so I can't really say one way or the other. But yeah, are there any that have kind of either started off really good and then got kind of bad, or started off bad and then got really good?
Not to the extent of a lot of other seasons, I feel like. There's not a lot I watched this season, obviously, but all of the things that I did watch stayed mostly consistent, and the biggest drops in my appreciation of them would be shows that are in my top 5, which I guess isn't impressive since I only have 7, but Akebi Sailor Uniform I was super hyped on when the first episode came out, and then I kind of fell out of love with it, but still kind of love it-ish by the end. And same with Demon Slayer. That was one where I was like, yo, this is awesome. And then it just like kept going. And
yeah.
I just was like, okay, it's a little less awesome now, but still awesome. So yeah, I guess not to the extent of other seasons, but there are a couple where I started trending down.
Yeah, I think I would agree. There are definitely seasons where I have extreme examples of this, and this season was relatively consistent. Obviously, I dropped a few eventually, so they did not pan out how I initially expected them to. But yeah, not too much to note in that category.
You went on a pretty long ride with was it Sabukui Bisco? 9 episodes before dropping it. What finally caused you to drop it? Because normally that seems like a pretty lost cause, like sunken cost fallacy at that point. It's like, well, I'm 9 episodes in on a 12-episode season. I might as well just go.
I want to say there have been series that I've dropped like before the finale. I think it just comes down to when I go to turn on the new episode and I'm treating it like a job, and like, all right, I just got to get through 24 minutes and then I don't have to deal with it for a week. So
I did that shit today.
Oh yeah, what show?
Tokyo 24th Ward.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was just I feel like it was always on the line for me. Of like, do I bother continuing with this? And it has a kind of bizarre storyline, so I was always a little curious about where it was going. But I guess at that point in the story, it had failed to impress me enough that I just didn't care anymore. I was like, all right, this isn't doing anything particularly interesting with its weird story, so I'm just gonna get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever gone that far into a show and dropped it up like because of dislike. I feel like I've definitely done that for shows where like I'll skip a week or two because I've been busy or whatever, and then just never go back to it. And I guess that's kind of a mark on it's maybe not its quality, but at least as much as the show had a hold of me, that I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I definitely had that whole I gotta watch this so I could talk about it on the podcast, even though I don't particularly enjoy it. I don't get anybody's motivations for anything anymore.
Yeah, I think like it was last season. I watched entirely too much Love Love Alternative and Kaginato just because I felt obligated to, because they dealt with franchises that are so beloved to me. So I feel like I have to be able to talk about them. You know, I should be like an authority on these things. But I knew all along, especially from Love Love Alternative, that they were not good.
I think that's okay, though. I feel like you can be an authority on something and still not like enjoy all of it, especially something like media franchise kind of related.
You heard how much I fucking hated Higurashi Sotsu.
Yeah. Perfect.
I see what it's going to do.
Franchise.
Yeah. Perfect example. Every franchise definitely has its duds and shit. Now, everybody may have a different opinion on what that is, but I think it's perfectly fine to not have to like drill yourself through a part of it that sucks just because you want to be able to talk about it. Especially because I wonder how many situations you'd find yourself in where the person you're talking about a franchise to wants to talk about the one that sucks. So I think that's a perfectly okay move.
I think with anime series, I've been able to drop them when that comes up more often. Whereas like, you know, with Marvel or anything like that, I know some stuff's going to suck, but you need to have it all to watch anything that comes after it. That's why I'm like, you know, anytime a new DC Extended Universe movie comes out, I'm like, please suck, please suck, please suck. Because I don't want it to be good and then have to watch all the shit that came before it, which is why I was really happy that the Batman was its own universe.
In those situations, I've always just been like, if the others suck, I'll just like read a Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's actually when people ask me how to watch the Universal Century, I'm like, and then you read what happened in Double Zeta, and then, yeah.
or you play Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and then you play the Double Zeta storyline if you want it to be interactive,
yeah,
and then you pretend like it never existed, and then you only talk about stuff like Zeta with people because that's what they want to talk about because that's the good shit.
Yeah, just look at a wiki article about shit that happened in Double Zeta and be done with it.
Indeed. So for this season, I'm trying to remember. I feel like we've talked about Demon Slayer already at least once.
Mm-hmm.
in depth a little bit, because I think DJ and I were on the same page about the final battle being too long.
Yeah, I think the last episode where we talked about the season was right before the finale aired.
Oh, so we can just touch on that a little bit, real quick, just to kind of get that out of the way, since all three of us were watching it. If you folks would like to do that,
sure.
So, I was upset that Zenitsu became annoying again. Like right at the end there, but I guess all good things must come to an end. But
he couldn't have been good for the whole season.
No, that's not allowed. That shit's not allowed. That's not what sells the t-shirts, is the cool Zenitsu. It's the stupid one that sells the merch. But I thought it was a pretty decent ending. Like, it's kind of wrapped everything up. I was glad that the Hashira, what's his name, Usui? Is that right?
Uzui.
Yeah, Uzui.
Yeah, Uzui. He didn't die, because I was definitely expecting him to.
They definitely made it seem like, okay, we're going to follow the exact same formula.
Yeah, and I was thinking the whole time, it's like, I don't want this to happen, but I could see a show like this doing it to force character development. Because that's just something that shows like this can do. Like, shonens can just kill important people to kind of force the main character, like give the main characters catalysts for growth. But I'm glad at, kind of at the last minute in sort of an ass pull way, because all of a sudden there's healing powers involved that I missed or didn't exist, that were able to kind of save the day. But I am glad he didn't die. Now he's fucked up. He's fucked up. And he's retiring, I think, right? Like, that's his whole spiel. Uzui's just like, I'm gonna cash in my Hashira pension and move away. But
it's a good note to end on.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, how effective would he really be anyway? Like, he's missing a hand, and isn't he blind in one eye now? Or some shit?
Yeah. Definitely got fucked up somehow. I don't know if he's blind in it.
Yeah, I know he lost a hand, because then he did a cool, like, used his hand as part of a nunchuck thing, which is dope as hell. But yeah, I thought he got, like, blinded from that poison or something. Yeah, either way, he would just be a liability at that point. Like, the most he could have served the Demon Slayer Corps at that point would be in, like, a training or, like, intel kind of, like, role, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm curious if the formula is going to be consistent, that each of these arcs basically, like, rewrites the Hashira structure, either by them dying or retiring or something else mixing it up. Because, yeah, they're continuing on the trend. The next arc has been announced, and it's going to star 2 more of the Hashira. So, yeah, I'm curious to see if that just keeps on happening and eventually our boys get up to that level.
I feel like they'd almost have to, because it doesn't sound like they got much in the pipeline.
Right, exactly.
We're going to see some Battlefield promotions. But yeah, I think I'm curious to see that as well. And we're getting it's just back to a normal TV series, right?
Yeah, the next arc is confirmed for TV series.
Cool. Well, I certainly look forward to it, especially if they keep up the quality, which, I have no doubts in terms of the art and the animation that'll be lacking. It's been, amazing to look at so far.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I want to see what, I think I'm most interested in how, like, Nezuko is going to be handled from now on, which I think we talked about last time, just like, she is very, very powerful now and can transform, but also can't control it, so I'm sure we'll get some type of montage maybe. But I think maybe from, like, a social standpoint, since the Demon Slayer Corps was, like, one step away from just killing her anyway when they first brought her on board.
And now she's basically like a 12 Kizuki level demon.
Yeah, essentially, so I feel like that's going to cause some ripples through at least the bureaucracy of the Demon Slayer Corps, because it's not like she had full overwhelming support anyway.
Yeah.
It was begrudging at best.
At the same time, though, I think Uzui is gonna be like, "Yo, girl, kind of saved my life," and that'll earn her some brownie points. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be good.
I was gonna say that's true, and I can't remember. I don't know if he made any comments about how flashy it was though, and I think that could be a problem.
Not flashy enough. Yeah. All of the Hashira that we spent time with so far, and the ones that are coming up, are the ones that have been like either supportive or indifferent. We don't have any news on when we're gonna really be spending time with the ones that were like fucking killer. So I'll be curious to see what happens once those guys like join the party for an arc.
I thought the same ones that were like
Rengoku was against Nezuko. Like
he
joining.
was, but he was just like, sure, whatever Master says. Yep. It wasn't like the other two or three.
He only has one mood, and it is overly energetic. So
yeah, I think Rengoku just like objected to it, but I don't know if he was totally in the let's kill her camp. I can't remember that far.
He was just super positive about everything. So I'm just curious what's going to happen when we actually have people who are just like, this needs to end. She needs to die. This is unacceptable. And are just assholes in general.
Those people that were also just comically evil about it.
Right.
At the same time,
and they looked comically evil.
Yeah, they looked and acted comically evil about it. And I was thinking the whole time, how is there not a person that's like, we should kill her, but also is even-keeled about it? Like, is thinking pragmatically? It's like, all the people that want to kill her also look like enormous masochist assholes.
I feel like the people, like, there were a few of them at the beginning that were like, she should probably die, pragmatically. But, yeah, they weren't, like, as adamant about it after the fact. Like, nobody really objected to the master's orders, and was a reasonable human being. Like, we need was it juror number 3 from 12 Angry Men? I can't remember what number he was, but that guy who's an antagonist, but a reasonable, level-headed person.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to happen, moving forward. So, do we have a date for that yet?
The next season?
Oh, they're just going right into it?
Oh, no. You're saying for the next season, though.
Yeah, sorry.
No, there's no date on that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I was like, he must be fucking with me right now. If he's saying,
no.
If he's saying it's going to start.
I was asking if you meant the next season of the show. Yeah.
No, yeah. So it's announced, but no like date or anything.
No,
with it. Gotcha.
I would guess sometime next year, hopefully early next year.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right. I feel like we can shift over now. So, DJ, is there anything you want to talk about in particular? I know you and Kestrel have at least, well, you have 2 more shows in common, I think. So if you guys want to talk about either Dress Up, or I don't know if you want to save Attack on Titan for later because there's a lot going on. I don't watch either of them, so it's kind of up to you two in this way. I know there's a lot of big shit happening in Attack on Titan, but then when is big shit not happening?
That's true. I mean, the whole thing is big shit. I feel like doing Demon Slayer and Attack on Titan back to back, though, it might be too front loady. So we should probably
we'll lose all our listeners after that.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got to save something to the end. Keep people interested, because we're not interesting enough. So that being said, I guess we could talk about My Dress Up Darling, which is my pick for the best show of the season. Well, maybe not best, but my favorite show of the season. That is not the best. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's still 1 episode left, and I assume I'm going to thoroughly enjoy that as well. It's just a lot of fun, and I'm always excited to see what Marin and the gang are up to. And by the gang, I just mean Gojo, because that's the only 2 characters that matter. It's a surprisingly good romance. And I know that's only one of several focal points of the show, but that's kind of what kept me into it. And that's not even me just being like, because Marin's a great character, and I'm not gonna like fanboy all over her and stuff, but it's just an actual compelling couple. Kind of like how Hori and Miyamura were from a couple seasons ago. It's like two characters that are really different, but somehow work because of their differences, and seeing them do things to support one another. It makes my heart warm, and it looks really good as well. And this was one of the Cloverworks shows, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that this is like where
One of
most
many.
of their effort went into this season, because it's
DJ's
definitely
top 2 shows of the season are Cloverworks.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how it happened the other time too. And I didn't watch the third one because that's it. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't realize it was Cloverworks or something, but My Dress Up Darling, the quality is fantastic. It's one of like the higher quality Cloverworks shows, I'd say, and it's popular for a reason. And some of that reason might be ecchi content, which is still aplenty, but not really what keeps people invested in the show. It's just kind of like a bonus, and it is a very abundant bonus, but it's a bonus.
Yeah, I agree. It's very horny.
It gets progressively hornier too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
the internet still is not doing any favors for this show for people who don't know what it is, because I just scroll through my Reddit and I'm like, this is still just a titty show as far as I know from the outside looking in.
There was a full-on boner last episode.
I mean,
Well, who doesn't like one of those?
Let's set the stage here. There was a boner that touched the mostly naked girl lying on top of the guy in a love hotel as the bed was going up and down, and they were hearing people orgasming in the next room. It's a little.
That was
horny.
a really good scene, though. I'm not gonna lie. It was a really good scene.
It is very well directed and very well produced. And yeah, I mean, despite all of that, and I don't know that I entirely agree that what's keeping most people engaged is not the horny content, but there's plenty of wholesome, heartwarming content, just legitimate romance and friendships, and like I discussed the first time, just appreciation of mutual passions, and helping people learn how to appreciate what they love and not feel ashamed about it, and just explore it as much as they can. And the fact that that is the foundation of the relationships is something that I enjoy a lot.
On that note, and I think the best example of the whole just like follow your passion even if you're not really sure what you're doing, I feel like the strongest part of the entire series so far was when the short girl Inui, I think, on just Juju-sama, where it's like going over her backstory and like how she got into cosplay and shit, and like it shows her first time trying to cosplay, and she just looks like a fucking moron. But it was like a really heartwarming thing, because it's like, even though you look like a moron, you're like finally happy and like doing what you want to do. And that was just a really powerful moment, I think.
Yeah, I like how, it addressed the fact that a lot of little girls grow up wanting to be princesses and then realize that that's not a real thing. And then she was able to find a way to make it real, and now people love her for it. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. If you can look past all of the horny stuff, there are definitely a lot of really wholesome, heartwarming moments in this show. There's just also a lot of horny stuff.
Remember that character's introduction, DJ?
Say that again? I was laughing. I couldn't hear you.
Remember Juju's introduction in the show?
Yeah, well, with being naked.
Being naked and then slipping, so her full everything is shown in the reflection in Gojo's eyeball. Yep. And she looks like she's 12 at most.
She's in high school.
I know she is older, but yes, that's what she looks like. And then, of course, her little sister, who's in middle school, has like J cups.
Yeah, yes, she does.
Is there a subplot about jealousy?
She's going to the same middle school as the Tokyo Revengers boys.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that show is silly.
Yeah, I don't know if I could deal not only with that from my own personal standpoint, but having it on my television, and every time Emily walks in the room, I gotta explain what's happening all the time.
Hey, there's only like a 50% chance that she walks in on a horny moment.
That makes it a 100% chance. Any chance is a 100% chance. It's like watching Tampopo and your mom walks in at the weird like nipple licking part, even though it's a movie about a ramen shop. Like there's just one like subplot because it's a whole movie about food and what it means to people, and there's like a sex subplot, but it only takes like maybe 3 minutes of the whole film. But of course that's when someone you don't want to see it comes in completely out of context.
Yep.
That's exactly
how it works.
Yep, that's how it would work with me every single goddamn time.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future of this show, though. I know it goes past where the anime is going to end, so we're probably getting a second season based on how popular it is. And from what I've heard, it gets like really, really, really good, like a lot better than it is now. So, yeah, it's another thing to look forward to, I think.
Nice.
Indeed. Well, I think if you guys are ready, we can move along as well.
Sure.
I think I'm going to take this few minutes of time to talk about what used to be a baseball anime. Because now it's just fully devolved into The Purge.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about it anymore. It's still a fucking blast to watch. Of course, I'm talking about I can't even remember the name now that I'm talking about it, but like Tribe 9. There we go. Tribe 9 by the same people who did Danganronpa, or at least the art studio. I talked about this show. I can't remember if I did last time a little bit, because I know I didn't get a chance to talk about one of them. I think it may have been Tokyo 24th Ward, but
yeah, I remember the Motorcycle League Baseball.
Okay, that's right. So it gets fucking crazier than dudes playing baseball on motorcycles. So I know DJ knows the basic rules of baseball, but Kestrel, you know how to score, how scoring a run works in baseball, right? Like you.
Yes.
Okay. So fuck that and everything you know about it, because in Tribe 9 style baseball, you can hit the ball once and unload a busload of people to run around the bases for you, and you get a point every single fucking time it happens, because the way that the story has gone, XB, or Extreme Baseball, has turned into a substitute for gang violence, and now just gang violence. So everyone's trying to blow each other up, shooting each other with guns, push each other off buildings, blowing up bridges. One guy got punched so hard that he has a hole in his stomach and he died immediately. It's fucking nuts. Like, I don't really know what to even think about it anymore. Like, I can't even figure out what's real and what isn't, and how this is supposed to sell a cell phone game, because that's what this whole thing was about, was a cell phone game.
It's always a cell phone game.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to know what you do in the cell phone game. Do you play XB,
Maybe
or do you kill
point.
people? Which one do you do?
It's probably a
The
rhythm
point of the
game.
anime is to make people wonder that so that they check it out.
There's no way that cell phone game could keep up with this. There's absolutely no way, because it's probably like some turn-based kind of like baseball game with bonus powers or whatever, because it's a cell phone game, so it's probably not that great. But yeah, the show is just, it's so like hard to talk about and easy at the same time, because it's just nobody knows what's happening anymore, and it's just people are gambling on who dies in baseball games now, and the old bad guy got usurped by the second in command, and now he changed all the XB rules, so XB is just a death match. Like, it's crazy. And of course, since it's Danganronpa design, there's a lot of people that have snake tongues walking around, and crazy eyes all the time, and pointy hair that goes like 6 miles behind them. It is something else. I know that I think in one of our chats, one person talked about wanting to start watching the show now, and I mean, if you like the like 80s B gore movie equivalent of anime, this is definitely a good one. to watch. Like if you're just into like weird campy schlock shit, because that's where we're at this point. And we're 10 episodes in, and I have no idea how the show is even going to end, because apparently you're not allowed to quit baseball either, because they're like, well, we don't want to die on the baseball field. And I'm like, no one's stopping you from quitting. But instead they go out and they get their heads chopped off. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. But yeah, I think we're at like 10 episodes or something like that, and everything's gone to shit. So I'll recommend. I can definitely recommend watching it if you just want something that's gonna feel like a schlocky, like gory B movie type deal. Not if you want like well written characters with real motivations and stuff like that. It's definitely something more you watch when you just, I don't know, want motion on a screen. I don't know, but I wanted to just cover where the show's at this point, and how we've completely forsaken baseball, or anything that really resembles baseball, except there's still a ball and a bat involved, but not in the ways that you would think they would be if you're playing baseball. So
fantastic.
Yeah. I don't regret watching it. I'm gonna use that as a compliment.
I had the same exact experience with Hypnosis Mike, so I understand where you're coming from.
Okay,
which was
good.
Another show where they tried to combat gang violence with an alternate form of gang violence in the form of rapping.
Yeah, and does it eventually just devolve into gang violence?
Kind of. They don't really get like innocent bystanders involved, but like they're like hurting each other with words, like physically hurting each other with words.
Yeah, I don't know if innocent bystanders are getting involved here as much, but they're definitely gambling on the games. And at this point, I'm like, why would you ever want to play baseball in this city? Because you're gonna die. Like, there's a chance you're gonna die, and it seems like there's no upside.
Yeah, no one dies in Hypnosis Mike. It doesn't get that intense, but people fall down and get hurt a lot.
Do they get those like anime scratches on their faces and stuff, like scuff marks everywhere?
Oh, of course, you can't fall down in anime and not have that happen. So
and not get scuff marks everywhere.
Yeah, that's how you show that they fell.
that they're not 100%.
Yeah, like even you can see the fall, but if they get up and they don't have like the scratch marks on them, you'll forget that they fell. You need an indicator.
Right, and there has to be at least a 70% chance that one of their eyes is closed.
Only slightly, though.
Yeah, just slightly. So it looks like it's kind of swollen, but maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, that's just where Tribe 9's at. I kind of wish that we had the game over here. Maybe we do, because I just want to see what that would look like compared to this show, and make just for curiosity, for like morbid curiosity's sake, because I know it's probably just a microtransaction gotcha hell, just like almost all of those types of games are. But yeah, so we can shift away from that now that I've been able to talk about it. How about Kestrel? Why don't we talk about something from your list? I'm interested to hear about case study of Vanitas, since you gave it a B+, so it must be pretty good, and I dropped it early on, so I kind of want to hear about it.
Yeah, I think it's going pretty well. We're delving more into the backstory of Vanitas as a character, and what makes him tick, what brought him to this point. Seeing some more vulnerable sides of him, which is interesting, and some from Noe as well. And yeah, it's just kind of getting to the point that everyone kind of has to reckon with their past, and they have insurmountable odds to face. Also, the romance between Vanitas and Jean is like getting to be a real romance from both sides, and Vanitas has taken the role of like a blushing virgin in the situation, which is kind of a nice change of roles. So yeah, I think it's going interesting places with the plot, with the characters, and I'm definitely engaged every week. So yeah, I appreciate it. Still looks great, still sounds great.
Well, it's good to hear that that's turning into an actual romance and not just one based off of sexual assault and intimidation. So
Yeah, it's nice that like Jean is taking command now, and Vanitas is like, I don't know how to process this because he's like actually feeling love for the first time, and he doesn't know what it is. So yeah, it's a nice role reversal there.
What's the relationship like between Vanitas and the other dude? Because I mean, it wasn't good when I stopped watching. It did not look like it was going to get any better. It seemed like there was a pretty strong. I'm only with you because I want to see what happens with this book. I actually fucking hate you otherwise.
I mean, I feel like they were always like a fun buddy cop duo on the verge of, yaoi ship. So I don't think there was any like real animosity as much as they tried to present that. But yeah, they've spent some time apart from each other. It was interesting to see like these relationships develop because it seemed like at the beginning it was going to do a lot of yaoi baiting. And there's been hints of that here and there, but like both characters have pretty well established female love interests at this point, which you wouldn't normally delve that much into if that's what you were planning to bait people with. So yeah, but they've spent a lot of time separate from each other this season, and now their storylines are starting to converge again, and Noe is like actually learning about Vanitas and his backstory. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shapes their relationship going forward, because Vanitas was always he played everything very close to the chest in terms of his own personality and backstory. So now it's all kind of out in the open.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he had a pretty like screwed up childhood, at least to a certain point.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're right in the midst of all that.
Yeah, because they had that like flashback episode, season 1, that had like a kid getting his head cut off. If I remember, and that caused a little bit of controversy.
Yeah, that was Noe's backstory.
Oh, that was Noe's. Okay, yeah. So neither of them have very good backstories.
Correct. Of course not. They're anime protagonists.
Gotcha. Yeah, you can't come from a good home and be involved in an anime.
Right.
Well, maybe they can bond over that.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of trauma in different areas.
Indeed. All right, ready to move on?
Sure.
Cool. Let's talk about Ranking of Kings. I know Kate's watching it, but I want to talk about it.
I mean, she said she was behind anyway, right?
Yeah, and who knows what that means.
Anyway. Yeah.
She watched one episode.
Yeah. She watched like the first 3 and then that's been it. But I really want to know what you thought of the battle between Boji and Boss and how that went down.
I mean, I messaged you like as soon as that episode came, or as soon as I finished watching the episode right when it came out. I was like, oh my god, the fucking animation in this episode, holy shit. And actually in my my next review of Attack on Titan, I was like, man, I miss Wit Studio working on this show. And then the following episode of Attack on Titan was like, oh, here's the best animation that MAP has ever done on this show. So I was like, all right. But still, that episode of Ranking Kings and the material that Arifumi Imai has done on Attack on Titan and One Punch Man and other stuff that he's worked on is just on a whole different fucking level. It's insane. So well directed, well storyboarded, well animated. The entire fight was just mind blowing. And yeah, I mean, obviously it was very easy to root for and be excited about how things went down. I guess some people watching that show could feel like it's a little too convenient sometimes, but I feel like it's been earned enough. So I'm just, I love it.
Yeah, I heard some similar stuff from people about a couple people. Definitely the like minority opinion that once Boji got as strong as he's gotten, that the show's lost a lot of tension for them. And I could see that. I kind of have a hard time dealing with it because he's strong, yeah, but it's not like he's like Goku or anything where he can just, instant transmission everywhere. Like, he's still one kid that had to ride on the back of a horse to get somewhere because his legs are like 5 inches tall apiece. So he's still just one person, not being able, and he obviously can't defeat everyone because he couldn't defeat Oken.
Right, yeah, that's like, I feel like you can't say there's no tension when there's just like 6 episodes of Oken fucking everybody up.
Well, the answer to that in the threads that I was a part of or trolling, because I don't really take part in like Reddit threads or anything on any subreddit, but it was Oken doesn't count because he's not a compelling character.
What?
Whatever that means.
I mean, he's an extremely compelling character. He kind of exists as a force of nature in his current form, but he has like a really heartfelt backstory.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't know if we're watching the same show.
Yeah.
When all that stuff was coming out, but that seemed to always be a rolling theme, was when Boji got strong, the show got worse, and Oken doesn't count because Oken doesn't speak or anything like that, or really have any major role in like the politics of the show, which that doesn't necessarily mean it makes you a non-compelling character, because as you said, Oken's like a force of nature, like weapon to be used by the bad guys in this sense, and that's what makes him compelling, is his usefulness as a tool, but also his like insane amount of bloodlust. He got did dirty though.
Yeah, yeah.
He got did very dirty. He got turned into soup.
Yeah, I think a regular theme of the show that we've always talked about has been how there are no bad guys, and I guess some of the like resolutions of forgiving the antagonist for most of the show might have been resolved a little bit too easily, but I don't know, it presents it all in such a heartwarming way that, and you've seen like so much tragedy and so much empathy for all of these characters that at the end of the day I'm still like, all right, fine, whatever, go live happily ever after, that's fine.
I think the only one I couldn't really get behind for that was Apis, because healing kind of heals him, which it took an embarrassingly long time for me to be like, oh, healing, because that's what she does.
I think Brandon realized that during an episode of this podcast as well.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, yes, it all makes sense. It's all clicking together now. But she sort of like healed and forgave Apis and just let him go off to do his thing with Miranjo. Now, granted, he turns back around and kind of takes Boji's side at the end. But yeah, I was a little bit like, I don't think he should be forgiven that easy, and I wasn't compelled as much by his backstory as others, because as far as I can remember, it's just he was weak and almost got killed by dogs, and Miranjo's like, no, you're not going to be killed by these dogs.
Yeah, he didn't have as much of a fleshed out backstory.
Yeah, it seemed like he was weak and she helped him become strong, and that was just about it.
Yeah, healing is definitely forgiving people very easily, and it's a kind of a good gag, and it shows how sweet of a person she is, but some of them are like, really? You don't have to think about that just a little bit more? Like, Miranjo's been trying to have you killed for most of this series, and you're going to let it go that quickly?
Yo, you know who got the short end of the stick this whole time?
Other than Oken?
I was going to say Dorsha.
Yeah.
Because he gets his shit rocked like 6 times. He's always in a position where he's like, oh, I'm going to have to be the only one to defend healing against these 8 dogs. Every single time. Because I think he's like missing an eye and a hand and a foot at this point.
Right.
Meanwhile, everyone else, even when they got healed by Boss, looks pretty much perfect. And he's like, oh, that's right, I'm still missing an eyeball. Like,
yeah, everyone else got their scuffs from falling down healed up.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dorsha's, crippled forever, but I mean, he obviously doesn't have a problem with it, but I was just thinking the whole time, it's like he can't catch a break because the healing comes too quickly and everyone else looks fine and he's still just the way he is. But
it's true.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how they did like from a story kind of telling standpoint, like how that battle went between Boji and Boss caught me by surprise, in a way. But after watching it and thinking about it, I was like, yeah, this is the best way this could have gone, because Boji just went through like a pretty hellish battle, and then to put him through another hellish battle, it could kind of, to me, be like, well, I guess he isn't the strongest, like Miranjo said, or he's having some problems. But I like the way that they just back to back boss, kicking the shit out of Oken, and then Boji just clowning on him.
But Cain, there is one problem with this. That contradicts power levels. Because if Boji couldn't beat Oken, and then Boss beat Oken, then how can Boji beat Boss? That's clearly the power levels are wrong.
Spoken like someone who doesn't watch anime. Those don't mean anything at all. Especially because Despa said the whole time that Oken is the bad version of the yin to his yang. But didn't really give much of a reason behind the fact that he couldn't die. But, yeah, I definitely agree with you about the animation for sure. Like, it looked fucking pristine. And I especially enjoyed how Boji didn't focus necessarily, like, especially in the beginning, on hurting Boss, but instead breaking his club into a million zillion pieces. Mm-hmm. Which was really cool.
Very Boji.
Very Boji. Yeah, very, very Boji. But yeah, it's super good. I'm surprised every time someone still says it's like underwatched or underrated. Like I think it almost falls into a similar style problem of like Dress Up Darling, where people won't watch Dress Up Darling because it's a pretty horny show, but there's a lot of good stuff. And I feel like a lot of people haven't or won't watch Ranking of Kings because it looks like it's made for kids, despite the fact the second opening has a guy just bleeding blood all over the place.
That's why I didn't watch it. Like, I looked at the art and I'm like, nope. And even after hearing all of the cool things about it, I still look at it and I'm like, eh. It's just, can't help but judge books by their covers sometimes.
Right, yeah.
No, I get that. I mean, I do it all the time. I'm not ashamed to admit that, especially for anime, I do that a lot.
You kind of have to with like how much there is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, unless you do have a ton of time to watch absolutely everything for enough episodes to make a true judgment on it, sometimes you're just going to pass on something because it doesn't look how you like it to look.
Yeah.
One nice thing about this show is like, you watch 2 episodes. If you don't love it at that point, then it's not for you. Because, like, by that point, it has already established itself as kind of a masterpiece.
Yeah, it really doesn't beat around the bush, at least. So that's good. Yeah, that's a very good point. It's quick to make that judgment once you start watching it if you're going to keep going or not. You don't have to go like 6 or 7 episodes in and be like, I'm just not feeling it. Yeah, like it's going to grab you or not almost, immediately. Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes from here, especially because we talked about this a little bit before, but like the entire title of the show has had almost nothing to do with the show, but it's still a part of the world. Because I think wasn't there a little cut in about the Despa's brother? I can't remember his name. Desha?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's actually
there's a lot of Despa, Deshas, Dorshas.
Well, those two are clearly supposed to be almost identical because they're brothers, even though Oken doesn't fit into that. But even though we as English speakers would read it as Desha, if you listen to how it's pronounced, it is in fact Desha, to be consistent with Despa. So, but I know that everyone's going to call him Desha, so that's fine.
I'm calling him Desha.
I know.
But I think there was a little a little cutaway scene about him becoming like the strongest king or something.
Yeah, he was, spoilers, but he accepted number 1 on the ranking.
Which I wonder how that goes. Like someone like an accountant or whatever just comes out, it's like, according to the numbers, you're the strongest now. How do you feel?
Yeah, that's basically what it seemed like. Like the little accountant guy from the Ranking of Kings organization came to him and was like, do you accept number 1?
I wonder what happens if you say no.
Well, he did say no for a while. until, I mean, obviously he needs the wish or whatever now, because Oken did not get healed yet.
Yeah, so it's still, so the whole ranking part is still a part of the show. And maybe it's something we'll get to now in later seasons if this is kind of all wrapped up and everything like that. So I'm interested to see how that part goes. Because that'll be a test for Boji on like an entirely different level if he's going to take over the throne.
Mm-hmm.
Because now he's going to go from, classic swashbuckling, solving stuff with, violence to having to be someone who does politics or has people do politics for him. So I imagine he'll just have to have a lot of assistants and viziers.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't, the ranking part hasn't been relevant for 99.999% of the series so far, and the fact that Boji has not been a king yet is obviously a big part of that. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, if that does truly become the focus at any point, then these two cores have basically been the prologue.
And I think, me personally, I don't think it's necessarily guaranteed that he's just going to become king either, because I could still see like roadblocks in his way despite his strength, just like, petulance in things, at least from his brother. Like, maybe his brother comes out and is like, yeah, this is cool, you can become king, but what if he comes out and is like, no, I'm going to take my throne again?
Daida has definitely grown a lot in his time being trapped within his own body. So I feel like at this point, he could just give Boji the throne, and that would be kind of a fitting end to the first season. But yeah, I mean, I did not expect anything about these two cores to go the way that they did. So
exactly, I'm afraid to make assumptions.
Yeah.
Because he could come out and he's grown, and he's like, I'm ready to lead the kingdom as an adult or whatever.
Yeah,
because of my
queen
growth
here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. Like, it still shows that despite most of the stuff being wrapped up, there's still some things that have, that need to be solved, and it's not exactly clear where it's going to. And I think that's a good indicator of like a well-written show, that nothing ever seems guaranteed.
Yeah, especially the way that the show has, you can never predict what's coming next, but that it's so good at like having all of these reveals where every time they reveal something, a bunch of things in the past just click into place. Like, oh, that explains that. Okay, that makes sense now. It all fits together really nicely. Well-written mystery.
Indeed. Also, that like hell dimension that Miranjo ends up in looks fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like when my brother and I were done watching it, we were like, "Oh Jesus!" Like that, it was probably one of the more effective like demonic realm depictions that I've seen recently. That actually made me feel something, not just like, "Ooh, there's spooky fire and red guys everywhere, like monsters." It was just like, no, there's only mainly two monsters or whatever, or just the one, but he's terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like, just every character is just so three-dimensional. You always have some empathy for them, but then there's something terrible that they've done as well.
Yo, I still don't have any empathy for Domas, just putting that out there.
I think they've done a good job at showing his strengths and weaknesses and flaws as a person, but also offering some redemption. And I can see how what he did early on can kind of never be made up for. But I mean, if you really look at it, like objectively, him versus some of the real villains of the show, I think he can be relatively forgiven as well.
I don't know if you could ever look at it objectively, because he tried to kill Boji.
Yeah, but like half the cast has done that.
But they also betray Boji? See, that's the thing. Other people tried to kill Boji, but they were on that route from the start. Domas betrays Boji, betrays his trust.
I don't know.
Betrays my trust.
I mean, Boss, like, tries to kill and take over and take all the powers from his children and wives and everything. So I feel like if you can forgive Boss, you can probably forgive anyone.
Yeah, I like how, speaking of that, I did think it was a really interesting story beat to have Boji be so open to be friends with and forgive everybody except Domas. He had such an incredible amount of trouble, like, dealing with his anger and his, like, fear of Domas and, like, the basically the PTSD of being pushed into a gorge.
Exactly, yeah. Like, it's such a visceral trauma to have absolute trust in a person and then see them just push you to your death. That's, very different from just knowing someone as an enemy.
Well, it was a very humanizing trait, like moment for Boji. It's just like, oh, this is the boy that's going to forgive and be friends with everybody instantly because he's the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. And it's like, nope, he's having a lot of trouble because this person, betrayed his trust and tried to kill him all at the same time. And that would be hard for anybody. And I'm glad the show did that. They showed that it wasn't instantaneous as easily as it was for others. But it just cements Boji's perfection. Yeah, this was definitely it was by and large always going to be my favorite show of the season because I watched two things that a lot of people probably would think is shit. So. Yeah, I think we can shift. Unless you have anything more to say about Ranking of Kings. I know it's your number one, so I didn't want to cut you off too early.
No, I got nothing else.
Dope. How about let's just swing right back into Cloverworks and talk about Akebi's Sailor Uniform, and then I think is Tokyo 24th Ward the other Cloverworks show?
Yes.
Oh man, so we just have a built-in segue, just right into it. So yeah, so you guys both watched Akebi Sailor Uniform and had not super divergent opinions about it, but definitely enough that I think it'll be an interesting conversation.
This is just a feel-good show. Like, this is my jam. It's just girls being girls, just hanging out, being friends. That's just all it is. It doesn't try to be anything else.
Girls just want to have fun.
Yeah, they do. And this show is proof of that, if the Cyndi Lauper song isn't. I love it. And it weirdly has made me not cry, but like get kind of teary in like almost half of the episodes for some reason. I thoroughly enjoy every single episode. I care about all the characters and I just want them to be happy. And thankfully they are. There's no drama ever. It's just fun and just them enjoying life and being young. And I'm like, man, I wish I was young still. And then that's probably where the teary eyes come from, where it's just like, oh shit, this isn't my life anymore. It looks
You're
great
not
too.
A middle school Japanese girl anymore.
It's straight up, dude. Middle school Japanese girls are like the only thing that can get me to cry at this point in life, and it's a really strange situation to be in. I like it a lot. I've even like come around on the character designs, which I still think are fucking loopy, but I think maybe because I care about some of the characters, I can force myself into enjoying it more than I could with Promised Neverland, where I didn't like anybody. It's they still just look fucking weird though. I think it works in the context of the show though. I'd prefer them to look different, but I accept them for who they are because I want them to be happy, and I know that they want me to like their character designs.
What's
not their fault? They have droopy eyes. The what factor?
What's the feet factor looking like?
The feet factor has calmed down a little. There hasn't been a lot of feet in the last few episodes. The first few episodes are front loaded with a lot of foot content.
That's to get the people in the door. That's to get them
it
in
worked.
the door.
It worked apparently.
Yeah, it's still a show about nothing, and but yeah, I like the times that the girls are not just super happy and are feeling a little bit of self-doubt and have to work through that, and they tend to be pretty cliche storylines, but they're still kind of emotions that I can resonate with pretty well. So yeah, I appreciate those times when they have to feel some inferiority or, just not sure of their place in the world, and then resolve that conveniently.
The bookmark episode is a good example of that, I think, which is probably my favorite one so far, with only one left. But yeah, I agree with that. I do enjoy the nothing happening parts too, but it's nice getting the slightly quote-unquote deeper moments.
Yeah, I think it helps to flesh out the characters, and then you can kind of appreciate when they feel good in their own skin and can find their place in the group a little bit more because of them.
Anytime I think about this show now, I just think of your description of it, where I believe your words were, it looks like their eyes were melting off of their faces.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best way any character has ever been described visually.
Every time you talk about it in that way, I think of those side-by-side pictures where it's like, this is the ice cream box of the SpongeBob lollipop,
Yep.
and this is what I actually got.
Yep.
It is just some amalgamation of like traits and features. They're just, none of them are where they're supposed to be.
It's got to be like one person at Cloverworks doing this, because there's a show next season where it's also everyone's eyes are just falling off of their face.
Yeah, it must be the same character designer. This guy has a very distinctive... I gotta look up his filmography now to see if there's anything else he's done. But yeah, they are definitely melted popsicle girls.
Yeah, it's a style.
Yeah, it's weird. I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, this is weird. I had to refresh myself on what the character designs look like. And I was like, yeah, this is, different, sure. Yeah, sure.
It's got the best opening of the season, I'll say, in my opinion.
You clearly haven't watched Ranking of Kings.
I haven't.
Ranking of Kings is very good, but like that Ame opening for Demon Slayer, if we're still counting that.
That was a good one. I feel like out of all of the Aimer songs I've heard, though, that one might be like near the lowest.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think Torches is the fucking best. That song.
It's a great song, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, I love the Akebi opening.
I feel like I find that to be a relatively forgettable opening, but teach their own.
Ooh,
It's just catchy, and it's like, it feels like it matches the show really well.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I find it forgettable.
True.
All right, so I think we can move on as well. From that one, we'll just jump right into the other Cloverworks show, which I think for a while they were, at least the last episode we talked about it, there were doubts if this show was going to keep going or what was going to happen to it or anything, and I can assure everybody that it is indeed still going. It's just not as good, and that's Tokyo 24th Ward. So I was thinking about how I would rank the stuff what I was watching, the whole 3 series that I was watching, and it was tough. It was a tough decision in a way, because I was like, Tribe 9 is so bad it's good, but it's also still bad, like at the end of the day. And Tokyo 24th Ward just suffers from, like, it has so much potential, and at least for me, it hasn't really lived up to any of it at all. So it's the difference between when someone tells you that they're mad at you and when they're disappointed in you.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, ooh, which one is worse? But what started off as a really cool idea for like, like a fortune-telling superhero kind of show has turned into like this just absolute mess of corporate espionage, Minority Report, the overreach of police into impoverished neighborhoods, like a lot of like social commentary on the power of social media and how people can be tricked into making decisions that they don't want to make because you just flood their social media with propaganda. It kind of just turned into a whole like, we just want to throw everything that's currently bad about modern society up against the wall and see what sticks in a way. And it's really disappointing because at the beginning, the double length episode we talked about last time, it was really like interesting. The characters were kind of cool. The dilemma that they were put in where they had to choose between one of two futures was like kind of realistic enough. Like a train that was supposed to have an AI that stopped on its own glitched out and now was going to run over this girl. So it was either save the girl, but the train will derail into a building and kill a bunch of people, or let the girl get run over, but you save all the people. Like really high stakes, because the girl was a friend, not just some rando, but like really high stakes, believable decisions made by everybody because it was a friend, and also, they're kind of kids. But then it immediately goes into a couple episodes about a food festival and a gang that wants to take over the food festival, which I don't quite get. But it really just kind of kept introducing stuff, like more and more stuff and deeper corporate espionage, deeper, we're taking over social media to try and influence how people think about Tokyo and the city, because the whole crux of the show, which it doesn't visit enough, so you forget, is the Tokyo 24th Ward of the title is this area of Tokyo that basically got like shut off because I guess they were so like ridden with violence and crime and shit, and now they're trying to be welcomed back into Tokyo as a whole. Like they were almost just like put in timeout, and in order to do this big corporation's trying to clean up the city with an app and a big piece of data collecting software that can predict like crimes and natural disasters and then throw them out to everyone's phones, because they gave everybody in the 24th Ward a free phone, and people were like, oh, this is cool, but in reality it's so they could data harvest you 24/7, 365. So it also plays on the whole, what price do you pay for your privacy? Like, will you let somebody that tells you they have your best interest in mind so you don't get robbed or whatever, you'll give them all your personal data so you can feel safe, or what is it? And it just had a lot of potential, and I feel like it's just kind of fallen flat in a way. Like I'm having a hard time figuring out anyone's motivations, because the three friends who were heroes in the beginning are almost like three entirely separate beings that don't even want to talk to each other anymore, but it doesn't feel organic in a way. It just feels like, well, now we have to go our separate ways, and now we're not going to talk to each other anymore, and now we're kind of friends but not at the same time. Like it's gotten super convoluted. Like it needs editing. Like it needs to get rid of some of this modern social commentary stuff and keep, the things that are a little more meaty to the story, and get rid of some of the other shit that felt like it was just like this is going on now, let's throw this in because this is we think this is happening now. Like, I don't know if I'm describing that very well, but basically it's just like, here's everything bad. Like real life, get it? And then that's kind of where it falters a lot. But it still has good moments. Like, it still has cool, like, action set pieces sometimes, and some of the characters are still interesting. But yeah, it could have been a lot more and then just wasn't. And I don't know how much of that is a consequence of it being kind of Cloverworks' third wheel. Or if it was always destined to be kind of like this in the writing department, because it is an original and it isn't based off of anything. So it's not like it had any source material to work off of that people could have known about. So maybe it was always destined to be at least this way in terms of the character development and writing. But yeah, as of right now, it's just I wish it could have been a lot better. Right. But that happens.
Yeah.
That happens. I'm glad at least it continued to be made. Like, it may not have turned into something that I liked, but I'm glad it at least had that shot, especially as an original, like, anime and not an adaptation or something that was made to sell a phone game or whatever. Just like a original written anime show. So I'm glad it at least got the chance to keep going. And I'm sure there's people who like it. And I can see why. It's just, it's kind of, yeah, not for me so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Were those all, how many shows was Cloverworks doing this season?
Could have been more than 3, right?
Yes, it had to be more than 3 because I feel like that's not enough to question the structural integrity of an entire show if the studio is even going to have it be made anymore. But I wouldn't know without checking charts or anything like that off the top of my head.
No, I mean, I think it was only 3 because they only started a few years ago. They spun off of A1 as a sub-studio of A1. So the fact that they are doing like 3 shows a season and 1 to 2 of them are always like really high quality, I can see how they can end up running into some issues with a third.
Are they really small?
I mean, I don't know how big they are now. They must have grown pretty rapidly. But like I said, they just spun off of A1 as a sub-studio just a few years ago. So I was not expecting them to have 3 shows a season as early as like a year ago. But they did, and they do again this season.
Wow. I wonder who's making those decisions if it put them through so much stress and now they're just going to turn around and do it all over again.
Yeah, I don't know. It happens a lot in every industry, and certainly this industry.
Indeed.
By the way, speaking of Cloverworks, I guess there must just be one guy who does the droopy eyes and like takes over these shows because Promise Neverland and Akebi do not have the same character designer or chief animation director or anything. So
no, that's an error.
Right?
That can't be right.
Seems impossible.
That's not true.
We just assumed it had to be the case.
Interesting. Well, he keeps getting work. So the guy was going to be doing the new one, so somebody likes it. But
yeah, what's the new one? I guess it must be the Kunoichi Tsubaki. Or
yeah,
as long as it's not
correct.
Spy Family. Yeah.
The lesbian lowly Kunoichi girls show.
Oh god, I think I saw a promotional art piece for that.
It's just foreheads everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's foreheads and like stick limbs.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so it looks like everyone's like got bobbleheads, or it
pretty
looks
much.
Like it'd be hard for them to walk around because their heads would just want to stretch all the way down to the earth and knock them over.
Let alone be ninjas, which they all are.
Yeah, I can't remember where I saw that piece, and I was just like, "This is a lot of real estate." Like on these foreheads, there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot, and then there's a lot of nothing.
Yeah,
giving Takagi-san a run for her money.
Yeah. It's interesting how there was that. I don't see the droopy eyes on these character designs as much, but the foreheads are definitely in common with Promise Neverland. But those foreheads were there in the manga, so I feel like, I don't know, maybe Cloverworks...
It chose the right studio.
Yeah, either it was a match made in heaven, or Cloverworks just drew those big-ass foreheads because of Promise Neverland. They were like, I like those big foreheads. Let's keep those around.
Indeed. All right. I think it is about time. If you guys wanted to talk about Attack on Titan, we could do that. We're a little over... Well, we're almost an hour and 15 in, so I think it's time for some gushing over Attack on Titan for those folks, and then I can kick back and drink some water.
Do it. Before we begin, is it done? Like, is this the end of it? Is okay.
Well, it's
this season.
Part 2 is done in one more episode.
I wasn't sure if there was one episode left because the way it works on Crunchyroll, it's like I never know which episode in the season we're at. So I never know if it's the last episode for shows that are sequels.
Yeah, we have one more, but it's delayed a week, so it won't be this coming weekend. It'll be the weekend after.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, it's really good. It's been really good the whole time. And I am glad it is not ending this season because I was kind of worried it would. And way too much shit needs to happen still.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's, I don't know. Like, as much as I like this season and as how good I understand it is, it still feels kind of weird or off to me. And I think that might be a side effect of just introducing so many new important characters at the tail end of the series where, like, I don't know, it feels kind of strange that happened, but at the same time, they all blend in well. Like, and I feel like having Reiner be basically the door to them getting introduced works. It's just when some of those characters are getting their comeuppance or getting killed, as happens in Attack on Titan, I struggle to feel the same for them that I do for all of the characters that I've known for years. Because these are people I've known for a few months. And it's like, I feel like the show wants me to care more about their existence. And I can't bring myself to actually do that because they just showed up one day.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. In this last episode, there were a few deaths, and one of them was a major death of a character who was only introduced in the final season, and I still felt that it was done very well, and
it was
felt like it had a lot of impact. So yeah, I guess I can see it both ways, but I think it's because there's been so much focus on the new characters. I feel like, until the post-credits scene of the last episode, I cared less about Annie than I did about literally every character introduced in the final season.
That was a good moment. Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
I've always loved her, and I've wanted something like that, and I'm glad that it happened, and I'm also glad the way it happened and when it happened after credits. So always watch the Attack on Titan credits. They have a history of putting the coolest shit afterwards.
Yeah, and that, I was waiting for something to happen because, in the first season, the characters, some of them were a little more one note, and Annie was cool, badass, super cold. That was awesome. She had a great role, but then she wasn't in it for 9 years. And when she came back, she woke up into a world where every single character that had ever been introduced had been fleshed out to such an extreme degree that she needed to seriously have some character development because she was not matching up to how much I cared about all these other even brand new characters. So yeah, I'm glad we're finally getting to that. We still need Mikasa to find her own agency beyond just being a cool fighter. But
she's getting there.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Well, it'll be a real test when
she's trying to break out of herself
a little bit. Yeah,
a little.
She's got a ways to go. But yeah, for it's a weird situation because the main character of the show has not been in the show for most of the final season, including the past 6 episodes. And so all of these other characters just become the protagonists. And since Mikasa was the original, second in line of protagonists, the fact that she feels like she has the least character to her at this point is a bummer.
That's fair.
But yeah, I think everyone's going to get there eventually. Annie got there eventually.
Speaking of to touch more on the one-note characters, do you want to know who's been the best part of this season for me? And it's a character I have not cared about at all until this season. I want you to take a guess as to who that is.
Jeez. A character
Connie.
you didn't care... Okay.
Connie Springer. I never fucking cared about him. I always thought that he was a waste. I just didn't care when he was around. And now I think he's great because he actually had some... It just took his best friend dying, basically, to start turning him into someone I cared more about. And I feel like the last few episodes in particular have been huge for him. And I like it a lot.
I agree. So I was going to say, like, I was going to disagree a little bit, but I think the past few episodes have definitely turned that around. And yeah, I care about Connie a lot more now. When he had his big, like, internal conflict of the core, I was pretty disappointed with how that ended up because not only was he, you know, making it obviously the wrong decision, and like that's fine. He's very emotional. He's not thinking it through rationally. Can forgive that a little bit, but the fact that ultimately it's Armin who resolves his character struggle and not Connie himself was kind of disappointing. But yeah, then when they have that showdown with their old friends, who I did not realize were still alive.
Yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, that was a great Connie moment. I'm like, these guys are still alive? What the fuck? Yeah. But yeah, the character development has definitely been great, and that's been a huge focus, especially since Aaron has been absent. Everyone else has really been able to grow and, you know, start hashing out where they stand and how to reevaluate their priorities given the nature of the situation at hand. So there's been a lot of really powerful content from that. I think the 3 or 4 episodes where not a lot happened after 3 huge episodes where everything happened, they were masterpieces. I started to lose a little bit of steam in there, but it's definitely back for these last few episodes. And like I mentioned earlier, the animation quality on the last episode was definitely more consistently impressive throughout the entire episode than anything Mappa has done on this series has ever been. So that was super cool to see. And yeah, I think there were some production issues in those 3 or 4 episodes that we never really saw from the Wit seasons. And I think it's probably because Mappa spreads themselves way too thin, and Wit always focuses on a single project at a time. So it kind of, you know, goes against the whole point of switching to Mappa, which was that they're so much bigger of a company. But it doesn't really help if they don't actually get to focus their resources appropriately. But it seems like they were just saving up for this episode, maybe some more. And if they can clean up some of those episodes on the Blu-rays, then it'll be all good. I'm definitely, when we started this, you know, part 2, I assumed, and when part 1 ended, I assumed that part 2 would be the end of Attack on Titan. And then they announced 12 episodes, and I haven't read the manga past the anime at any point. But I do every episode go and check how many chapters the episode covered to get a sense of how much more we have. And not only were they in a situation where like they would have needed 16 or so episodes this core, like they had last core. Actually, when it started, they only needed like 14, based on the previous rate of adaptation. But not only did they start that way and then only give it 12, but it seems like they're intentionally trying to make sure more content is left over to cover in, I don't know, a movie or a very short third core. Because it used to always be like at least 1.5 chapters per episode. And then once they got past like the really big events, these episodes where not as much happened, even less happened because they each adapted only 1 chapter, which was a strange decision at that point in the story. And I think I kind of felt it. They seemed even more drawn out and uneventful for the most part. So yeah, I feel like if they could have just like adapted this without having to fit within TV schedules and the number of episodes in a season or anything, maybe the pacing would have been a little more consistent and we could have gotten like the ideal version of it. So I think it's a little unfortunate that they seem to be stretching it out to have more content for whatever the final thing is. But I'm definitely curious to see what that is, when we'll get it. If it's a movie, then hey, I'm sure it'll look amazing, but we might not get it immediately in the US, which would suck. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what absurd cliffhanger they leave us off on for this core, because they're clearly just trying to get to some point and then stop, and I don't know if that will be a very satisfying point or not. But it's a weird situation.
I kind of believe deep down inside of my heart that we might get another really long gap between the end of part 2 and the finale. And I feel like that would be the biggest dick move in anime history. It's like, here's another 6 years until you get your resolution.
Yeah, I feel like they cannot do that because we've been on the final season since 2020.
Which is why it would be great if they did.
And the manga has been over for a year. So, like, there's absolutely no reason that should happen. Even switching studios and staff and everything, there was no, like, gap. It was just a year in between. I think the first big gap between season 1 and 2 was, 1, because they didn't have enough manga content, and then 2, I think because Wit and the staff wants to focus on one thing at a time, and they wanted to do some original stuff, and Araki and all of them wanted to do their dumb Attack on Titan ripoff show instead. That all factored in, but the fact that Mappa is just such an assembly line of just pushing out content, and the manga is over, I don't think there's really any risk of that, just maybe risk of, overworking everyone and not having the best production values all the time.
Yeah, that never happens in anime.
Yeah. Yeah, I know people like to post pictures of the director of this season of Attack on Titan because he just has perpetual really bad bags under his eyes. But,
such is the life.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, there have been reports of him, like, going home after spending 3 days at the studio just working constantly. And the staff in general, just all of Mappa is just spread way too thin and super overworked. So yeah, it sucks a lot. And, like I mentioned, as good as the animation for this last episode of Attack on Titan was, compared to how consistent and how good it was all the time when Wit was doing it, and then, seeing a lot of the same staff at Wit, like Imai, working on Ranking of Kings and just, blowing me away with that, I do wish that it had stayed under them the whole time.
Was that just like a contract thing? Like, I haven't been paying attention at all. You don't have to go into like super detail that it switched studios. Was it just like money?
I'm sure we'll never know all the reasons, but the one reason that they gave was that they wanted the final season to, be so much bigger in scope, and Mappa is technically a much bigger studio, but, like I said, that doesn't help when they spread everyone so thin. But then also, I think, because Wit wants to focus on a single thing at a time, and they didn't want to be just, they didn't want to have the obligation of doing a season of Attack on Titan every year and not being able to do, like, originals like Great Pretender and Vivi and, a passion project like Ranking of Kings. So I think Wit wanted more variety, and the producers thought that having a big studio like Mappa would give them better production values, I guess.
Because I can't think of many situations where a studio makes a change like that, at least off the top of my head. This is the one that I think of the most, but I don't know if that's a very common occurrence or
especially
not.
Like with a title as popular as Attack on Titan. Like, that's not a thing a lot of people would let slip, but Wit is an amazing studio who has potential to make amazing things. So if it was like them deciding they didn't want to be a part of it anymore, right. I get it.
Yeah. Again, I don't think we'll ever know all the reasons. I think there was some mutual agreement on both sides. But yeah, I agree that, like, of the caliber of Attack on Titan and the caliber of work that Wit had done on it, it's kind of mind-blowing that they didn't continue because it seemed like in the best interest of everyone. But like One Punch Man was a big example recently where, the first season was like perfectly produced, and then the second season switched to not any of the same people and was nowhere near its level of quality. And it was a big disappointment. And a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, percentage-wise not a lot, but quite a few series have switched studios or staff throughout their run. And they, try to keep them relatively consistent. But yeah, I think Attack on Titan is just so huge in everything it tries to accomplish that the differences are pretty noticeable.
What if it was like a poker game?
Yeah.
It was just they lost Attack on Titan on a bad bet. That's why they don't want to talk about it.
Right, exactly.
All right, cool. You guys got it out of your system?
Yeah, I mean, I write 2,000 words about it every week, so obviously I have more to talk about, but I think that kind of summarizes it.
I feel like you
now.
Can just perpetually talk about Attack on Titan for the rest of eternity, and then...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, not only do I talk about it in reviews for 2,000 words a week, but then I have, like, all of my friends watching it, so then we just talk about it all the time throughout the week. Yeah, it's great.
There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, one final question that is never explained, that I don't know if we have an explanation for, but, like, Annie was crystallized for how many years, canonically?
4.
4?
Yep.
She's still aged during that time, which I think is strange.
It's a little weird, yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Here, I'll answer that question with an even more pressing question. What is the female Titan? What if a man eats Annie? Do they get boobs? Is that all the female Titan is?
It's a good question. We didn't get enough of the Warhammer Titan. That thing was fucking rad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Eren is going to be now that he's God, but I was expecting to see him like utilize it since he got his powers at some point. I agree. That was a great episode, and it's unfortunate that it was reduced to a single episode because there's so much potential with that power.
Yeah, it was so cool. It's my favorite Titan easily. I think the Jaw Titan is fucking dumb.
Yeah, like, there's a big range of, like, the Warhammer Titan is obviously this one super cool power that has so much potential, and then some of them are just like, you got a jaw, I guess? You're a girl?
This Titan is slightly harder than the other Titans.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Armor Titan's kind of cool, but... Yeah, I don't know what the female Titan is really supposed to be. It seemed like that was before they thought of having like special powers for each of them. And then being able to pass them between anyone. And then the Jaw Titan is very different depending on who has it. Like, I don't know, Ymir was just Gollum. And then like Porco, he had like a really defined like metal jaw or stone jaw or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's the Jaw Titan. Sure, you have a big jaw now. But it doesn't seem very consistent between different people who he did.
Titans are weird.
That's true.
All right. I'm trying to look through anyone's list and see if there's anything else that you guys really want to talk about. We kind of covered most everything. I think, Kestrel, you have 2 shows left on your list we haven't touched on, and DJ, you have 2 or 3, but they're all towards the bottom. So I don't know if you feel particularly compelled to talk about them, especially Platinum End, which...
Yeah, I'll once again reiterate that Platinum End sucks, and that it should not have been made. And that it's clearly just the Death Note guy trying to make Death Note again and not succeeding in doing so. It is just a blatant copy in pretty much every single way. but it's been dumbed down and worsened, and no one is a good character in the show, and it's just dumb. It's just a dumb show.
But sunk cost fallacy has you still watching it.
Yeah, I got too far in. It was like, I can't drop it anymore. I've got to see how it resolved. Because, I mean, it does the same Death Note thing where it's like, oh, we've reached the end of the first core. Time to make a completely different show. And so that happened again. And the first core sucked. So it wasn't even like you have one good core and then one bad core. And I think part of me was like, well, maybe the second core Platinum End will be good. And it's somehow worse, which is strange because the big bad of the first core was it was a Power Rangers show. And it was like, it just didn't make any sense. And I wanted it to get better. And I don't know how it didn't because the bar was so low. And I got too far in. I couldn't drop it, and I wanted to finish it, and it's still bad with one episode to go.
It is amazing how much worse his writing has gotten over time. It doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, it's like because Death Note, even like with my problems with it, was a really smart series. Like it was just written by a smart person who just knew a bunch of shit. And this is like. It feels like the first thing someone has ever written where they don't really know what they're trying to do and just like creating more mechanics for the world and none of it makes sense or sticks and it's just not good. It's dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah, it feels like the prototype for Death Note that the guy wrote in middle school.
Yeah, yep, you didn't even watch the show, and you've got a better explanation for it than me.
I watched like 6 episodes.
Fucking Power Rangers ass Death Note shit. So bad. Don't watch.
There's a cool red diamondy thing, though. I'm just looking at pictures.
Red diamondy thing. Are you looking like
the arrow, right?
The what?
The whatever arrow, I can't remember.
Oh, the red arrow. Yeah, that's the thing that you shoot people with and it makes them love you. Or do whatever you say. And then there's the white arrow, which you can shoot people with that just kills them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Those are the mechanics. And you can they're given you by angels, which like they're ranked like from like special to second rank, and like there are 3 different angel powers. The third one's wings, where you can like move at the speed of light times 10, which just allows the characters to evade any danger at any point ever. And those are the things that they fight each other with.
It sounds too complicated.
Yeah, and like in between, you know how like you'll get to the commercial break and there will always be like little tidbits or like loading cards for Slice of Life series. In Platinum End, they give you like really brief explanations of how mechanics in the universe work.
Which is straight from Death Note.
But like you only have like 0.3 seconds to read them. And it's like 3 paragraphs of like an explanation.
Attack on Titan is guilty of that too.
Yeah, but like they at least Attack on Titan, they're like cards. So like you can pause it and like look at the card. And Platinum End, it's scrolling text, like Star Wars scrolling text, where it's like you can't even fucking. It's dumb.
But isn't that the secret to all good media? Is you tell, you don't show. Just like how a joke is only ever funny if it has to be explained.
Right.
True. The more times you explain it, the funnier it gets.
Yeah, every single time. It doesn't get old.
Yeah. So like the 50th time they've explained the angel mechanics in Platinum End to me, now I can fully appreciate it. Like I get how good it is now because they've told me so many times.
It doesn't even sound like it's a fun explanation thing, like how JoJo's would over-explain stuff, but it would always be funny.
Right.
Because it was just some guy screaming exposition in the back.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's so boring. And there's too much of it.
Well, that is very unfortunate. I hope your suffering ends soon.
It will. Next week, it's going to be all over.
We just
need like 10 more deep monologues about society, and then somebody trying to shoot somebody else with an arrow, and then it'll be done.
You're going to log into Crunchyroll, wherever this thing's showing, and it's a double-length episode to fit all the monologues.
I'll only watch the first half. I can't do it anymore.
All right, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? I mean, I'm all spent with my shows for the most part. Or same for you, Kestrel. If there's another show that you wanted to touch on a little bit, since you had a couple as well.
Not really. Takagi-san is very cute. Sasamiya is also cute in different ways, but pretty solid BL show. That's it.
Excellent. Well, then I think we can move on to any recommendations if people had them. I know that since we just did an episode last week, they may not be a whole lot different, but we can still go over them anyway, if anybody had any.
Yeah. So we're recording this on March 23rd. I'm sure it will be released in several days, so March 24th will have already passed. But it is the 50th anniversary of The Godfather, tomorrow as of this recording.
Oh, damn.
And you can watch it in theaters in many places. Most of my tiny local Vermont theaters have it, so I imagine most places in the country have at least some theaters showing it. You can also get the 50th anniversary collection, however you want to get it, on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray for the first time. There's a super fancy version that, of course, I got that has a big hardcover book with all of the movies and the new cut of Part 3, all on 4K, and it's really fancy and nice. You can also just, get the discs themselves, and you can get them individually as well. So, yeah, check that out.
Godfather is one of the 3 films that I commonly cite as the best movie ever made. So, cool.
What are the other two?
Yeah, what are the other two?
Yeah.
They're both Japanese.
Dodgeball.
I don't know if you want to wager guesses. One is a very popular classic Japanese film.
Seven Samurai.
Yeah, okay. So you got one of them. So Seven Samurai, The Godfather, and then Tokyo Monogatari, which is a Yasujiro Ozu film. I think it is absolutely phenomenal. I have it was one of the first Criterion sets I bought, and I immediately bought like every other Ozu Blu-ray, basically, and there are a fucking lot of them. And I'd wager in saying that he is my favorite classic Japanese director, and like that's probably my favorite genre of film. So definitely watch. That's my recommendation. I recommend that everybody watch Tokyo Monogatari, or Tokyo Story, as it is titled in the English Criterion release. It's like 3.5 hours long, and it's just about a mommy and a daddy who are very old and they're dying, and their kids come to visit them, and that's just what the movie's about, and it's phenomenal.
I'm going to make a list of the top 10 films that I consider the greatest ever for the celebration tomorrow.
Ooh.
And I will pass it along to you guys, but I will give you a little spoiler that I think 2 of your 3 that you just mentioned are my top 2 of all time.
Hell yeah.
And also my wife's bottom 2 of all time. My 10 greatest films of all time are also Caitlin's worst films of all time.
Becca's the same way. Like because I originally tried to watch Tokyo Monogatari with her, and she fell asleep like twice.
Yep.
So... yeah, some people just can't get into older movies, which I get. Like, they're a lot slower. And black and white, which not everybody's into.
Yeah, she always says that she likes old movies and black and white movies, but every time I try to show her one, she's like, that movie sucked. I want to watch some Ryan Reynolds romantic comedy.
Let's watch Free Guy again.
We did just watch Free Guy. It wasn't as bad as I expected.
There is, I don't know if I'd put it top 10 of all time, but there is a Ryan Reynolds movie that I think is the best black comedy ever made. And that is
Green Lantern.
No. I don't think Green Lantern's a black comedy. It's called The Voices. He plays a schizophrenic serial killer who talks through his cat and his dog and just keeps killing people and like putting them in his fridge. And it is fucking insane. It's such a good movie, and I know like 3 people that have watched it.
Interesting.
It's wild.
So Kestrel is recommending The Godfather. DJ's recommending Ozu films. And oh man, I guess the only thing I could recommend that's new, even new-ish, that I didn't already from last week is I started playing Yakuza Wave, like the new one,
Like a Dragon.
Dragon. It's pretty fucking good.
Yeah. I've got some problems with it. I don't really think turn-based works in a Yakuza game, but like that being said, I still enjoy it, and it's still definitely Yakuza.
Yeah, like I like the collecting cans minigame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ichiban is just like the complete opposite of Kiryu, which kind of had to happen in order for the series to work. Is like
he's a 41-year-old shonen protagonist.
Yep. His entire thing was like, I wanted to be the Dragon Quest guy, like when I grew up. And so that's how it explains away the turn-based combat. Like anytime you fight people, he just goes into turn-based mode. And it is awesome. He's a fucking just a grown-up kid, and I love him.
He has like his imagination changes everybody's outfits.
Yep.
Into like Dragon Questified versions of themselves and stuff like that.
Leave it to fucking Yakuza to explain away the thing that I looked at and I thought was like the dumbest shit ever, and they just made it work.
I think it legitimately says, because of Ichiban's crazy imagination, like they give you a text box and that was it.
It just works because it's Yakuza.
Yeah, it works because that's how a lot of shit in those games work, and they always have such a fun blend of like really serious, dark, like crime drama, and then it'll cut to the next scene, and it's the protagonist, whether it's Ichiban or Kiryu, beating dudes up in diapers.
Yakuza is the most Japanese piece of media in existence.
Yeah, it really is. So, yeah, I have similar feelings about the turn-based, especially because of the way the turn-based works. Like, I keep wanting to move the characters.
Yeah. Because
they move. And I keep thinking I can move them, but I can't. And sometimes that can screw you over if you get stuck behind something. But, yeah, I really like the characters as well. And of course, it's, you know, it's a lot of fun, and it introduced like Yokohama, so you're not just in the main city from the original games anymore, or the main part of the city, I suppose. Kamurocho.
You start
there, but you end up in Yokohama, so it's like a different atmosphere, a little bit like less red light district-y in a way. Yeah. So it's a nice little change of atmosphere, but I would recommend that for sure, especially if you have like Game Pass Ultimate, because it's free. Oh, it is on the service. I have a hard time saying it's free because you're paying for the service. Kind of like when people say like you can stream that free on Netflix. Well, you're paying for Netflix, so you're not streaming it for free.
It's a lot cheaper though. Like I was on the fence about Game Pass, and then I like looked up how much shit that you get with Game Pass, and it's definitely worth it.
Oh,
like if
yeah.
you play more than like one game a year.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how much you pay for it, because there's ways to get it cheaper. Like they used to do a thing, and they may still do it, where it's like you bought all of the time in like cheap Xbox Live, and then transformed it into Xbox Ultimate, so you got to pay like $1 for 2 or 3 years of stuff. They're running a weird promotion like that because their whole goal is to get you hooked onto it. But if you just played like one AAA / relatively new or higher MSRP game, like a month and a half, you'd pay for the whole year just like that. Not even a month and a half. Like, yeah,
like it's $10 a month. A game costs $60 normally. So if you're playing 2 games a year, you are basically getting a million other games for free.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, that's how I looked at it too, because I was like, well, I could play Doom Eternal day one, and Forza Horizon when that came out, and then Halo Infinite when that came out. I didn't have to like buy those at MSRP, so I already got all my money's worth. So everything else I play for the rest of 2022 is basically cake. But yeah, so I would recommend that. But I think if that's everything, we can call it a night, especially because I still kind of want to play Yakuza.
Yeah,
but yeah, say Kestrel if you want to let them know where they can find us.
Find us wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe, rate, review. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Alexa, Facebook Podcasts. Follow us on social media, Facebook and Twitter at Fandom Post Radio. Share our stuff, get in contact with us via email, fandompostradio@gmail.com. You can also find us in the podcast at fandompost.com. And you can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma. Read my reviews of Attack on Titan.
You can find me on Twitter. Were you done? Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you want to go ahead.
Okay. Well, I will go ahead. If you want to find me on the internet for some reason, you can find me on Twitter at DJ No Style. You can find my video game at patreon.com/celibusdev. Or on Subscribestar at subscribestar.adult.com/celibus. Excellent.
And as always, you can find me here on the podcast, and that's just about it. So, everybody, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, get your friends to listen, review us, give us some suggestions, or, I'll take criticism and hate, whatever. Give me what you got. But we will see. I will see you guys later. We'll talk to everybody later. Thanks for listening.
Peace out.
See ya.